Hey girl, hey, it's Nita and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Nita Danielle, and on this channel we focus on fashion, beauty, lifestyle, motherhood, and everything in between. So if you enjoy those topics, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. So at the end of last year, I did ask you guys for end of the year Q&A, and in that, a couple of you guys did ask me to do a dedicated video talking about my journey and how I purchased a home as a single mom. And I love sharing this story because number one, it was a God did testimony, okay? God did. And also, I love sharing my journey just to encourage other single moms out there or other people in general that are on a home buying journey that, don't give up. It's possible. If you guys have followed the journey at all, in my vlogs or on Instagram where I talked about my story and lives and different things like that, you know that it was not just a wham bam thank you ma'am process. This was many years in the making. Okay, so yeah, today I'm going to be sharing my journey, tips and well, not tricks, tips. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing my journey. I'm also going to share tips for anyone that is looking for a home, and that's whether you're a single mom, whether you're a single woman, whether you're married. I mean, it does not matter. These tips I think will be beneficial for anyone that is on a home buying journey. I will also be talking about how I got my credit together and all of the things. So if you are interested, stay tuned and keep on watching. One little note, this is a get ready with me video, so I probably am a little chatty, so I will have timestamps down below so you can kind of skip to whatever part you may be interested in. I tried to keep it concise. Also, we are getting ready, so I will have details on my hair, my makeup, the outfit, all the things in the description box down below. Now, without further ado, let's hop into the video. All right, you guys, so I'm going to go ahead and hop into the video. Since this is not a makeup tutorial, I will have all of the items that I am using in today's video in the description box down below, the shade and all of that good stuff. So let's go ahead and hop into it. So my journey to home ownership started in 2019. I think it was at that time that I decided that I wanted to become a homeowner because in all honesty, before I became a mom, I never really cared to own a house. But I always said that if I did buy that, I would just kind of get like a condo downtown or something like that. So 2019, I decided that I wanted to, eventually become a homeowner. I knew I wasn't ready, and I'd always heard that as an entrepreneur, it is hard to buy a home. If you guys don't know, before doing this full-time, I am currently a full-time content creator, but before that, I was a full-time hairstylist and makeup artist. So I did that for 10 years. So I had tenure in the game and all that kind of stuff. And I made good money, but I just always heard that it was hard for entrepreneurs to purchase a home. So I felt like I had two double whammies against me. I am a single mom and I'm an entrepreneur. So yeah, a friend girl of mine referred me to my realtor, which her name is Adrienne Hooker. I will have her information in the description box down below. If you're looking for a realtor in the DFW area, she's amazing. But I reached out to her, and in our conversation, she was just so encouraging and helpful. And she let me know that, when she purchased her first home, she was a single mom. She had just came to Texas with her daughter, and with her experience, she had like a bad experience with her first home purchase. That's kind of what pushed her into real estate. And she had a passion for helping single moms purchase homes. So she let me know that the first step that I should do is to talk to a loan officer. So that is the first step that I would recommend for anyone. Talk to the loan officer because that's pretty much the money person. The realtor helps you find the home, but the loan officer is the person that will kind of tell you where you are credit wise, that will tell you what you can afford, that will kind of help you figure out what payments you will be looking at regarding a home. They are the ones that approve your loan, underwrite your loan, all of that kind of stuff. So I would always say to start with a loan officer. Like I said, I was referred to mine through my realtor. She gave me the information. And so I contacted him and I let him know like, hey, I think I'll be looking to purchase next year. At that time, it was 2019 and I wanted to purchase in 2020. This is of course before we knew about the pandemic and all that. So he let me know. He had me fill out some information. He didn't run my credit. I didn't want him to run my credit because I just kind of wanted to keep it where it was. I had already worked on my credit, so I wasn't concerned with the credit portion. My concern was more so with the financial portion, meaning what can I afford? How does a mortgage work? Like I'd heard, again, I'm a research type of girl, so I had done some research and I'd heard that, a mortgage is comprised of more than just like the purchase of the home and the interest, it's other things. So he kind of broke down to me how a mortgage works. He broke down, you know, that type of thing. And then he also took my last 2 tax statements. Again, I'm an entrepreneur, so my process as far as the finances is a little different. I had to send my last 2 tax statements to him. And then, like I said, I didn't have him run my credit just because I knew my credit was good. So I wasn't concerned about that. But typically they will run your credit and again, give you the full financial standing of where you are, where you need to be. You know, if you maybe need to pay off certain things, the loan officer will be the person to give you all of that information when it comes to the finances and where you are credit wise. So when I did that, he told me that I had been, you know, writing off too much. So I needed to wait at least another year or so to do that. And then he also kind of let me know financially what I could afford at that time. I can't remember what he told me I could afford, but I was like, you know, okay, I kind of took that information and I was like, all right, let me continue to work on this. I know what I need to do on my next round when I file my taxes, not write off. Like he told me the amount that I needed to make sure I claimed on my taxes. And again, if you're an entrepreneur, this makes sense. If you're not an entrepreneur, you can just kind of skip past this part. But yeah, I'm not a tax professional. I'm not anything like that. I would just say, again, your first step would be to talk to a loan officer, because that is the money person and that is the credit person. That is who will, you know, approve or deny you for the home. So that's step 1. All right, so after I spoke with John, who was the loan officer, I walked away from that conversation knowing what I needed to do with my taxes, knowing that my credit was in good standing, and also knowing I personally just wanted to get out of debt before I purchased my home. Debt to income ratio is also a thing as far as, you know, anyone. They do look at how much debt you have, how many payments you're already making when it comes to the affordability of you purchasing a home. That matters, your debt to income ratio. But I had already decided just personally that I wanted to be debt free before I purchased the home. Yeah, that's a whole nother story, my debt free journey. But yeah, so I'd already decided I was going to be debt free before I purchased my home. And at the time that I spoke to John, I think I just paid off my car. I was almost about to pay off my car. And then the only thing I had after that was student loans. Okay, so that was another reason why I wasn't looking to purchase when I spoke with them in 2019, is because I knew I wanted to be debt free first. Again, just to free up my income, especially being an entrepreneur, you know, things happen. So I personally just wanted to do that. So fast forward 2020, I paid off my car in March. And I paid off my car, I think in February. And then in March, the pandemic happened. The salon closed down. I was considered a non-essential worker, so I was no longer working. So of course, my home buying journey got put on hold. And my debt-free journey also got put on hold, because whatever money that I made, I wanted to ensure that, you know, I just kind of held on to it, because I think all of us were, you know, we were just living in uncertain times. So I was like, let's put a pause on the home buying journey. Let's see, okay? So fast forward to 2022. I was like, okay, I'm ready. We're gonna purchase a home. Like, I paid off my debt at that time. I was completely debt free. And you know, the salon was back open. By that time, I was also doing content creating part-time. So I was also making money from this. And you know, I was just like in a good space and knew that I was ready to hop back into the home buying process and get the ball rolling. But y'all, at that time, the prices of homes were drastically different than what they were before. So like I said, the last time I looked at homes was 2019. Then fast forward, we were end of 2021, early 2022. And I'm looking at these homes like, this house was just like $250,000. How is it now $450,000, $500,000? You know, townhomes I was looking at, they were barely like, you know, $200,000, maybe $250,000, were $400,000 and $500,000. Like, the prices of homes had doubled. And I was just like, I'm not gonna be able to buy. I'm priced out. I am priced out of the market. So I hit up my realtor like, hey, I've been looking at this stuff on my own, just kind of seeing what I can see. And these homes are so expensive. Is there anything that I could possibly afford? And she was like, yeah, but you're just gonna have to move to the outskirts of town. So if you guys don't know, I live in Dallas, Texas. So the inner city, Dallas, It's very big, okay? Dallas, you can drive pretty much almost an hour. 30-45 minutes is the norm it takes to get from, you know, one area of Dallas to another area of Dallas. Now, when I say area of Dallas, it can be Dallas proper to Plano to Addison to Garland to Richardson. That's all considered, you know, Dallas in the grand scheme of things. So anyway, she was like, yeah, you're not gonna be able to stay like in the city. You are going to have to move to the outskirts of town to be able to afford a home. Yes, you're going to get more bang for your buck, but you know, you're probably going to be kind of far. Is that okay? And I'm like, well, yeah, that's going to be fine because that's really all I can afford. So we started looking in the outskirts of town, and well, my realtor, I would say, started looking, and she was so excited to show me this particular house. She was like, I know you're gonna love it. I know you do content creating. It has a place for that. So we go out there. This place was about 45 to 50 minutes from my home. Again, the outskirts of town. I go look at the home. It is beautiful. All the things. It's in my price range. It's a new build. I did want a new build just because I was like, girl, I don't want to get into a house and fix it up. I just don't have the capacity for that. It's not my thing. And I would just prefer a new build. I really wanted, you know, a community that had like a pool and a playground and different things for my daughter. So yeah, so anyway, this community, this home checked all the boxes. So we go to look at the house, we go to the office to put the house under contract, pay my earnest money. And they set up an appointment for us to come back and do that. So we go out there and they are like, well, hey, unfortunately, we are no longer building this particular floor plan, this particular home. Number one, they were out of the materials. It was a 2-story or considered a 1.5-story home. So it was a, you know, it was the second story was just like an open area where I was going to create content. So they considered that a 1.5-story. Well, they were not building any 1.5 or 2-story homes, period, because of the pandemic and shortage of labor. Shortage of materials. They didn't have any of the materials to support the 2-story homes. So not only were they no longer building that floor plan, they did not have any more to sell us. Yeah, so I'm like, y'all had us come all the way back out here to tell me that y'all couldn't say that over the phone. And I mean, I went out there on the ice. Like, it was one of those days where it was ice, but I was so excited. I was like, no, we're gonna meet up. And so the lady came in for us. But I'm like, you came in for us to tell us this? Like, what? So I was just like, all right, whatever, it's cool. It must not be meant. I had already prayed. You know, God is going to guide me through this journey. God is going to guide us through this process, and we are going to find the home and the community that works for us. So this just may not be the home. So fast forward, a couple of weeks later, I get an excited call from my realtor like, hey, you would never guess what happened. I'm like, okay, what happened? And she's like, there was a house that fell from under the contract. Unfortunately, the young lady who had the contract ended up losing her job. And so she ended up letting the contract go. And this community did have a wait list. But they were like, because it was my realtor's client, they were like, if you want to offer this contract to any of your clients, you are more than welcome to do that before we start going down our wait list. So yeah, I was so excited. I went out there to look at the home because she had already, you know, kind of made choices for the home. So I couldn't really make any changes. So I had to go look at it to see if it's something that I would want, because they had already started building. I couldn't make any changes. So I had to take it as is. I loved it. She made the majority of the choices that I would have made. The few things that I were, you know, very minor cosmetic details. And I was just so excited. I was like, yes, God is looking out for us. Yeah. And child, so I put my earnest money down, signed a contract. So the house is under contract and it is kind of officially, unofficially mine. So at that point, there was nothing really more to do. I will say also one thing about new build homes, if you're looking at a new build, a lot of times they do offer you an incentive to use their lender. So again, your realtor may have a lender. Like I was working with John. That was the lender that I worked with, that I spoke with when I told y'all I contacted the lender to get my information. So a lot of times the lender that the new build works with, they offer incentives such as they will give you so much down towards closing costs, or they will give you a special interest rate. And especially at that time where interest rates were higher, that was like a huge selling point. So I did end up going with their lender because they had a better deal than John did, and he totally understood. I did ask him, he tried to meet that, and he unfortunately wasn't able to. So anyway, signed my little contract, paid my earnest money, all of that. So after you do kind of the preliminary work, if in this experience of a new build, you do so much and then they kind of put it on pause until the house is kind of almost done. So in this case, this is what happened. But unfortunately, during the process, every time I would go out there on Sundays to look at the home, I just felt uneasy. I did not feel at peace, and I just could not figure out why at first. I was like, what is it? Like, I should be excited, I should be happy, but I feel like an uneasiness about this decision. And long story short, it was because of the location of the house. At this time, like I said, I had gone full-time being a content creator, and I started traveling quite a bit for work. And the only reason that I'm able to travel is because of my family. They take my daughter to school, they take her to practice, and take care of her pretty much while I'm out of town for work. And if I'm on that side of town, I don't have any friends or family over there. Yes, I could create a support system, but why do that when I have people that I know, love, and trust that are here? So long story short, I ended up letting go of that contract. Oh my God, that hurt. But I was like, okay, well, God, where am I gonna find a house in the city? And when I say in the city, I don't mean Dallas proper, because I don't live in Dallas proper, but in the general location, like being close to my family that we love, that we enjoy. I still want a new build, and I want to be able to afford it. That was the biggest thing. Homes in the city are just so much more expensive. And I'm like, God, I'm priced out. I can't afford to live close to my support system because it's high as heck. And long story short, girl, God came through and did his big one, okay? The following year, I made a lot more money as a content creator, and I was able to afford this home, and we closed, and here we are. So that's kind of my journey in a nutshell. You know, to make a long story short, shout out to God for being Jehovah Rapha. No, wait, Jehovah Jireh, sorry, girl. Wrong name, same God, okay? Jehovah Jireh. But anyway, so that being said, these are my tips for anyone, whether you are a single mother, whether you're a single woman, single man, married, doesn't matter. If you are looking to become a homeowner, these are my tips that I learned from my own personal journey that will help you on your journey. So of course, like I said, tip number one, you need to talk to a loan officer. If you don't know a loan officer personally, ask your realtor. They should know one. You can also talk to someone at your bank. This loan officer that you speak with doesn't necessarily have to be the person that you use, but I think first and foremost, you want to know what standing you're in. I think a lot of times we assume like, oh, my credit isn't this or this isn't that, but there are so many programs for, you know, first-time home buyers and different things like that. If you're a teacher, if you maybe work for the city, there are so many programs to assist you with home ownership, as far as maybe a down payment or a special interest rate and different things like that. So a lot of times once you talk with a loan officer and they get your information, they can tell you what you do qualify for. So don't count yourself out before you talk to someone. Don't just say, oh, I'm not gonna be able to do it, it's gonna be so hard. Go speak with someone so they can look at your individual situation. Don't just take, you know, my word for it or the word of these folks, you know, over on Instagram telling you what you should do. Go sit down and speak with someone so they can look at your own personal situation and let you know where you are and where you need to be to purchase a home. So that's number one. Go sit down with the loan officer in person. Let them run your information, run your credit, pull, you know, look at your finances, and they can give you a realistic picture. And they will also be the one to tell you what you will qualify for as far as the price of your home. And then you can decide, well, hey, this is a bit much, or, you know, whatever the case may be. They can help you get a good idea number-wise also of where you want to be. All right, so after you speak with the loan officer, you kind of know where you are credit-wise, finance-wise. You have your plan of attack. If you need to do anything, if you need to pay off anything, pay down anything, whatever, they will be the ones to kind of let you know about that and how to do that. The second thing would be to list out, or this could have been the first, it would be to list out your must-haves versus your nice-to-haves as far as your home, okay? Now, of course, you know, buying a home is a very big purchase. It's a very pricey purchase. However, I don't think it's very unlikely, especially I think in today's market, that you are just going to find a home that literally checks any and every box, right? And then probably also in your price point, unless you're maybe building a custom home from scratch, right? So what I had to learn to do was write down, okay, these are the things that I absolutely want. You know, again, I'm spending a lot of money. I'm buying this home. These are the things that I absolutely want. For me, that was a backyard, a nice sized backyard for my baby to run and play. She is young. She has, you know, a while to grow. And I knew that I wanted to have a backyard for her. I also knew that we would probably be getting a dog. She even asking for a pet. So there. I also knew that I wanted a community that had amenities such as a pool and a playground. So that was important for me. I knew that I did not want a home that was older than maybe 5 years old. And again, I just knew that I was not going into a fixer-upper. I didn't have the capacity. I did not want to move into a home and then turn around and have to renovate and all of that. So I wanted a home that I was okay with making certain cosmetic changes such as paint or, you know, changing doorknobs and light fixtures, stuff like that, cosmetic changes. But I did not want to go in and have to literally renovate the house, knock down walls and do all of that. I didn't want a home where I had to walk in and do that before I felt comfortable living in the home. So those were just some preliminary things. Those were like my must-haves. And then my nice-to-haves were like, I did want a 2-story home and I did want the 2-story ceiling. That's a nice-to-have, but it wasn't like a necessity. I did want a walk-in closet. Now, with my job, that could kind of be a nice-to-have, but I was like, it should have enough rooms where if I need to convert a room to a closet, I can do that. What else did I want? I wanted... It was kind of in the middle. I wanted a separate shower and tub. A lot of new build homes here lately I kept running into, they had a shower in the master, but they did not have a tub. And I do like to soak, so I wanted both. I did not want just a shower and I have to go to the guest bathroom and sit in the tub. It wasn't a deal breaker per se, but ain't gonna lie, it kind of was. So again, just giving you those things. Maybe if you also, there are certain communities where the HOA does cover like mowing the grass. That could be something that would be a nice to have, or maybe a must have. Again, as a single mom, that may be a must have for you. Maybe you don't want an HOA. That could be a necessity. I want to look at homes that are not in the HOA community because that brings another set of fees, and it could be problems depending on the type of HOA in that community. So yeah, list out your must-haves versus your nice-to-haves. So that gives you kind of like your shopping list when you're looking at these homes. So you can walk in and they can look all nice and grandiose or whatever, and then you look back and say, oh dang, I really wanted a garage and this has a carport. Or dang, I really wanted a backyard and I settled for this house that don't have it. Like, you want to make sure that you're not settling. This is a big purchase. This is a very expensive purchase. And this is, unless you're looking to flip the house, which if you're clicking on this video, I don't think you're looking to do that, then this is something that you want to make sure that when you're paying your mortgage, you are enjoying what you are working hard to pay for. So yeah, that would be my second tip, to write out define what your must-haves are and your nice-to-haves. Tip number 3 kind of ties in with tip number 1. If I'm looking down, I'm putting glue on my lashes. But tip number 3 does also kind of tie into tip number 1, and that would be to set your budget and stick to it, okay? So there are times when you would get approved for a certain amount. Like when you talk to your loan officer, they may tell you that, hey, you're approved for a $5,000 mortgage. If that's not what you want to pay or that you feel comfortable when you set your budget paying, don't take all of that money. Because at the end of the day, mortgages, even if you do a 15-year mortgage, that is a very long time to like max out and stretch your budget, right? So regardless as to what the loan officer approves you for, you need to know what your budget is. And it probably should have been tip number 1. Tip number 3 ties into tip number 1. Make your budget and stick to it. Don't get caught up in these new shiny homes and all these fixtures and all of these things. A lot of the upsells that they give you in homes, you can do yourself, or you can hire a contractor to do it for much, much less, okay? So like prime example, I knew after looking at homes, I was like, oh, I really want black countertops, right? So even though I did purchase a new build, nowadays, after the pandemic, in my experience, a lot of new build homes, unless you are doing a straight custom home, even when they allow you to pick certain specifications, they're not custom. It's like a package and it's crazy expensive. And so it's like, I'm paying extra to let y'all do this. And it's like 3 times the price of what it would be if I just got a contractor and changed the countertops myself. I would say cosmetic changes when you're looking at a home. Again, cosmetic to me would be paint, light fixtures, light bulbs, doorknobs on the thing, changing out that kind of stuff. Some of that stuff you can do yourself. Some of that stuff you can call your uncle, your daddy, your cousin, a TaskRabbit, order you some stuff on Amazon, and you can change that up yourself. Like for much less than what it will be to have the builder do these things, okay? So again, make your budget, decide what you are comfortable with paying, and stick to that. Do not deviate outside of that. I don't care how much you love the home. At the end of the day, a mortgage is a very, very long commitment. And again, you don't want to put yourself in a financial bind. You still want to live. You still want to go on vacation. You still want to take time off. You still want to be able to go hang out, go out to eat. You do not want to be house poor. You do not want to be having to work overtime and get 3, 4, 5, 6 jobs to pay your mortgage, and that's it. So make your budget, stick to it. And even, like I said, once you talk to the loan officer, you guys can go from there. But even if they approve you for more than your budget, don't take that money. Make your budget, stick to it. All right, so the next tip is honestly just to have fun and enjoy the journey. You guys, my entire home buying process, I mean, if you count from the first time I spoke with the loan officer in 2019 to the time I purchased my home in 2023, that's 4 years. That's 4 years. Now, granted, one of those years was a pandemic, all of that, but I mean, it still took 4 years. Even once I went back and seriously started my home buying process, which was in 2022, 2023, it still took a while. Again, I told y'all I had a home that I ended up having to let go of. Or I didn't even tell y'all, I ended up putting a second home under contract, and I let go of that too. Why? Because I was settling for that house. Because I had a goal in my mind that I wanted to purchase a home before my daughter started school, okay? And she was about to start school that upcoming August. She was going to kinder at a big girl school, as she calls it. And I had in my mind, this is the goal. And so when I let go of the home that was way across town, I ended up coming across another home that was closer to my support system and everything, but I really didn't like the house, y'all. But I was like, you know what? This will be my first home. I'll just settle for this. I can make it work. And then I was like, girl, why would you be like, we're not doing that. You're not going to pay a mortgage for a house that you don't even like. And it's different if you buying a home and you plan on renovating it or something. That's not what I wanted to do. And this is a new build. So have fun, enjoy the journey. Don't let it stress you out. I will say the home buying journey can be extremely stressful. Again, especially in today's market, it's just, it can be very stressful, but do your best not to stress. Do your best to enjoy this journey. And do your best just to remember that, like, buying a house is not an easy feat, okay? I don't know why sometimes people can make it seem like, you know, it's just this thing, you just, like, it's like apartment hunting. It's not, it's not the same. You don't just go buy houses like you just going to look for a pair of shoes at Dillard's. Like, that's just not, it's not an easy feat. So number one, just the fact that you even made it to the point where you're able to buy a home, that's a feat within itself. Especially, again, as single mothers, like the fact that you're getting approved for anything, you got a pre-approval letter, like that's amazing. Celebrate those small wins and just be encouraged, girl. Like, I never in a million years would have thought that, I knew it was a goal of mine to own a home, but baby, for a while it looked bleak. And again, if you saw those vlogs where I took you guys through some of that journey, you know, like I was bawling, crying like a baby, like trying to figure out, God, I am doing everything in my power. And it is just like finding a needle in a haystack. And again, I wasn't looking to buy this multi-million-dollar mansion. Like, why is this so hard? Buying a home is a lot. It can be very stressful, but just do your best to enjoy the journey. Don't let it stress you out as much as possible. And yeah, don't let it stress you out as much as possible. And of course, if you learn nothing else from me, you get nothing else from me, know that God can do and is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all you can ask or think. And I will say that is what anchored me throughout this whole journey. That is what has encouraged me throughout this whole journey, is being a believer. Now, of course, I know everyone doesn't believe, so if you don't, of course, this doesn't apply to you. But I had already prayed and asked God about the home buying journey. And so when things fell through, I just had to trust the process, and I had to trust, okay, this must not be what's for us. And I'm so glad that I did not settle for specifically that second house. The first house, I knew God was telling me no. The second one, I knew God didn't tell me, yeah, but I really wanted the house. I really wanted a house, and I'm so glad that I did not settle. So please don't settle, you guys, and stay encouraged if you are whatever part of the process that you're in, whether you are in the process of building your credit, whether you're in the process of saving up money for a down payment, whether you're in the process of looking and you feel discouraged because you can't afford anything. I've been in all of those places, and I get it. I overstand, okay? I don't understand, I overstand. And just know that if I can do it, literally anybody can. God does not have favorites, contrary to what people believe. God is not a respecter of person. And in due season, when the time is right, you will find, God will bless you and your children and your babies and your grandkids or whoever's with you, your husband, your wife, with the home for you guys, okay? One last thing, I was also asked about like how I prepared credit wise. I realized as I'm thinking back, I did not speak on that. I think I said by the time that I decided to purchase a home, I had already had my credit good. And that's because I went through a season, and I've touched on this briefly in vlogs. I went through a season when I was younger, like in my early 20s, where my credit was horrible to the point that I could not even get an apartment in my name, y'all. Growing up, I did not learn about credit. I knew nothing about it. When I got to college and, you know, they were throwing credit cards at you, I would get credit cards, max them out, cut them up, and throw them in the trash. I didn't know anything about credit. So when I went to get an apartment, I think I was like 22 or 23 years old. And I went in there, I went to apply for the apartment, and the lady was like, oh no, unfortunately you're not approved. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm not approved? And she's like, yeah, your credit it's not being approved. It says that you have a lot, you know, going on in your credit. And I'm like, what? What do I have going on there? And baby, she got the listing out things, or did she go to, I can't remember, y'all. This was what, 15 years ago at this point. So I don't remember details. I just remember vividly her telling me that I could not get this apartment in my name. And I'm like, I am too young to not be able to get an apartment in my name. Like, what do you mean? Like, are you crazy? So anyway, I called my aunt, thank God. Shout out to my aunt Keisha. See, she co-signed for me, but it was in that moment that I was like, okay, I need to learn about credit and I need to get my credit together. I'm too young to have bad credit. Like I said, I was 22 years old, or maybe 23, somewhere around there. So at the time I had a client who, she did lashes, and she would also always post on Facebook, because at this time, you guys know, Instagram wasn't around, TikTok wasn't around, Facebook was a thing. So she would always post on Facebook about like this lady that was helping her get her credit together. And it is actually, if you guys know Arnita of Luxurious Credit, it was her. Now, like I said, this was 15 years ago, okay? 14, 15 years ago, somewhere around there. So I was like, so when she came in to bring her girls to get their hair done, I was like, hey, who is this lady that you're always talking about helps you get your credit together? And she's like, oh, I'm gonna give you her number. And again, at this time, she didn't have the huge credit business that she has now. It was just her. So she gave me her number, and long story short, Arnita is the one who educated me about credit and helped me to build my credit. And again, I did this in my early to mid 20s. So what I can tell you, the steps that I did that I can remember specifically, number one, at the time that we were working on my credit, everything was old. So I think she went in and disputed what I had, and we pretty much had to build my credit from scratch because everything was so old. Another thing that I did have to do, my student loans, I think, were behind or something like that because I wasn't making calls. I did have student loan debt from, I went to college, I dropped out of college and went to beauty or cosmetology school and graduated from there. So I think the payments were due, but I just literally never called and said anything. So that was behind as well. So I had to call and get a deferral. And then eventually I, set up on a payment plan and started making my payments. But she was the one who educated me on like credit, why it's important outside of what I had already experienced, not being able to get an apartment. But also at that time, I had a car. Y'all, I had a Suzuki Forenza. I don't even think, do they make Suzukis anymore? I had a Suzuki Forenza, like a 20, I don't even know. It wasn't horribly old, but whatever the case may be, y'all, I was paying almost $700 a month for this car. And we're talking about 12, 15 years ago, okay? I could have been driving, probably a Lamborghini at that amount at that time, but my credit was so bad that I overpaid for everything because I didn't have a choice. I needed a car. And girl, anyway, I have just been through the ringer with all of the things financial. I told y'all about my debt-free journey. I had gone through the credit journey in my 20s. So by the time I came to purchase a home in my 30s, I had already gone through the ringer with my credit. And once we got it together, I didn't play by my credit. Like, I'm not co-signing for nothing. Don't ask me to do, like, no. I am a stickler for making sure my credit is straight, because I know how it feels to not be able to get things that you need, especially want to, but just the things that you need. I know how that feels. And then also, I know how hard it is and how long it takes to build credit. Like, it's not an overnight thing, y'all. So here are the things that we did to build, or I should say rebuild my credit. Because again, when I spoke with her, a lot of the things on my credit were older, so she was like, we pretty much got to clean your credit up and you got to start from scratch. So the first thing she told me to do was to apply for a secured credit card. The difference between a secured credit card versus like your regular credit card is that you pretty much don't have to apply for it, but you do have to pay your money up front. So I want to say I had a secured credit card through, like, it was called like Sky something. And the minimum was $500. So I saved up $500 because I didn't just have it laying around. Or was it $300? One of those. And then you have to send in the money via like money order, MoneyGram, something like that. I'm sure now they have where you can do it online. But again, this was like 12 to 15 years ago. I had to send in a money order, and then they gave me a credit card. So it's secured because you're pretty much using your own money. They're not extending you a line of credit because your credit is bad or you don't have credit. In my case, it was kind of a mixture of both. So I had to do a secured credit card, and I would utilize that credit card to pay like some of my bills and everything. And I had to make sure that I paid that credit card off every month. I had to make sure I used it and paid it off. And what I was doing was, again, building my credit, okay? So that is a good tip, I think, for anyone that, even let's say you're in a place where your credit is bad and you just can't afford to like have someone work on it, or maybe, of course, you can do a lot of things yourself. Listen, either you're gonna spend your time or you're gonna spend your money. And I was just at a place where I would rather pay this lady to do it because I wasn't keeping up with all that paperwork. So anyway, you can always get a secured credit card. I want to say Capital One has secured credit cards as well. I'm sure there are a variety of companies. Like I said, this was years ago, but you can get a secured credit card and use that as a way to build your credit. Because again, what you're doing is establishing a good credit history, paying on time, showing that you use the card. And that's what I did with that one. So I ended up, eventually I got 2 cards. I had that one through like Sky somebody, and then I did get a secured card through Capital One. Now the good thing about Capital One, at least at that time, once you had your card, I think for a year, it transferred over into a regular credit card. So that's what happened with this other card. I got a secured credit card through Capital One. I believe it was the same minimum of either $300 or $500. I saved up my money, I sent that in, and then after a year, they sent me my money back and they said, hey, you've been upgraded to, I think, a Quicksilver credit card is what happened. So that was the good thing about the Capital One card. Again, this was years ago. I hope it still works the same, but I did the secured card. After a year, they upgraded to a regular credit card and they sent me my money back. So that was what I did to rebuild my credit. And then while I was doing that, she was kind of attacking some of the older things, getting those off, making sure my address is updated and stuff like that. Again, this is her business's name, Luxurious Credit. I don't know if the business is still around because I just haven't looked into credit things like that, but I'm sure these days you can find a reputable company to, clean your credit up and stuff like that. Or again, you can absolutely do it yourself. You don't have to pay someone. Again, I'm just in the business of saving my time with certain things that are not my strong suit. And especially at that case, I was learning, so that was not my strong suit. So the next thing that we did, number one, secured cards to establish my credit because I was not approved for any regular credit cards. The second thing that I had to do was contact my student loan company and make sure I made payment arrangements with them. Again, I was just very stupid and naive. I wasn't paying them people and I wasn't making any phone calls. So what I did was I called, I was able to get my student loans, I think deferred at that time. And once the deferral was up, I did have to start making monthly payments. And what you could do, at least at that time, I'm sure it's probably still the same. I had to send in like my tax statements or something like that to like my proof of income, and they would arrange my payments to match my income. So let's say, I think my payments initially, they sent me something like, my payment's supposed to be like $1,200. No ma'am. So I was like, I can't afford $1,200. So I had to send in some kind of proof of like my income or something like that. And it was called an income-based repayment plan. That's exactly what it was, IBR. So I was on an IBR repayment plan. Again, don't know if that's still around, but that's what it's called at that time. And then anytime I had like a life change, I would just contact them and say, hey, I need to redo my income-based repayment plan because I had a life change. My income has changed. You know, of course, during the pandemic, all of student loans were put on pause, period, as far as your payments. And that's actually how I paid off my student loans. I was able to pay on the principal because it was not accruing interest. And that's also, yeah, so that's when I paid off my student loans. But anyway, whether you're paying them off or not, you do need to contact them or any other debtors, debtors that you have to make sure you are making payment arrangements and pay your bills on time. Pay your bills on time. Don't be like me, okay? I had to learn things the hard way. Don't be like me. Pay your bills on time. It matters. Especially in the home buying process, your credit does matter. The higher your credit, as a matter of fact, what I didn't know, a lot of lenders, you will see that they have these special interest rates currently. So prime example, for my home, they had a special interest rate of, you know, different things. But what they don't tell you is that your credit has to be over, I want to say it has to be 720 or over to be approved for this special interest rate. At least that was through this builder and the lender that they use. But from what my realtor was telling me that was like the catch. So they get you in there like, yeah, we got this interest rate if you go with our lender, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, oh, well, your credit score has to be here. And you looking like, what? Yeah, so again, I can't speak for everyone. That has been my personal experience, and that is what my realtor told me that a lot of lenders are doing. They're running these specials like, hey, we have this special interest rate, or we'll give you this much towards closing costs, but then they'll come back and say, oh, well, your credit needs to be here to be approved for that special interest rate. So again, it matters, it matters, it matters. So whatever you can do to get your score up, do that. I will say when I applied for the loan and everything, I got approved, and my credit score at the time I think was pulling like at a 718. And she was like, okay, you just need to pay this off. Like I had a few credit cards that I hadn't paid off because it wasn't time for them to be like paid. I pay my credit cards off every month. I do not want any more consumer debt. So anyway, she was just like, hey, pay these off and then call them and have them to send us a letter. Because when I purchased my home, it was like a quick turnaround. I did what they consider a quick move-in. So pretty much the home was almost done. When I signed my contract and paid my earnest money, from there to the date of closing, it was literally like a month. So they were like, well, hey, it's probably not going to update on your credit. So pay it off, contact the lender, and have them send us a letter saying that you did pay the balance. So that's what I had to do. And then at that point, my score went up to what it needed to be approved for the interest rate that they had going on. But I say all of that to say your credit score does really matter. The higher you can get that thing, the better it will be when it comes to your loan. All right, babe. So I pray that this video was helpful for you guys. I pray that it answered your questions. I pray that it gives you encouragement on your home ownership journey, or, you know, if you're getting your credit together, if you're getting your finances together. Again, I feel like I have been through the ringer with that. I've experienced it all. And, you know, through hard work, discipline, and girl, God's goodness and faithfulness, it is absolutely possible. And I pray that this video just encourages you and give you some helpful tips along your journey. If there is another question that you have or something that I did not touch on, of course, leave a comment down below and I will absolutely answer your questions and get back to you. Also, as far as this outfit, you guys, this outfit is old, so I will have similar pieces linked down below so that you can recreate this look if you are interested. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you more than you know, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, girl.